Hey everybody, Dr. Hellman here. This is the third in a series of movies that I've been wanting to do about a really cool product called Metasploit. And in the first two movies, the first one was where I introduced you to Metasploit and how it works, how to launch it. And then the second one was we showed you how to go against Metasploitable to launch a couple of exploits. And Metasploitable, of course, was created so that you could play around with Metasploit and see how it works. Now, in this movie, what I'd like to do is teach you how to use a super neat product called Metsploitable that's bundled into Metasploit. And I think you're going to really enjoy learning about it. Now, listen, if you like these videos, would you do me a favor and please hit the subscribe button and the notification button and like it for me? I would super appreciate that. Let's get started. All right then, you may remember that I had you run an nmap command against Metasploitable, and I had you do the tac o cap n switch to save it to a file name. And if I do an ls here, you'll see the file is out there, and it's called meta_dump. And if I do a cat on that, what I do is I get the output here that you see on the screen. And there's the command that I issued, nmap tac_sv, for the version number of the software. tac means to go query all ports 0 through 65,535. And tac_on means that we want to output this as a file. It would be to your benefit to do a man page on nmap, man nmap, and take a look down on the tac_o switches. There are actually 4 different file types that you can save off to. The N stands for normal, and it's just a normal text file. And then you have to give it a name here. And then here's the IP address of my particular Metasploitable computer. Then what we did was we noticed that there are software versions here. Now this tac_sv is very useful because what it does is it brings back not only the version of the software, but also the name of the software, which allows you to search Metasploit, and you could also search searchsploit. Let me show that to you. So if I type in searchsploit, this is different than VSFTPD 2.304. This is different than search inside of Metasploit itself, and it's telling you that there are some exploits that have been built for this, and one is a Ruby exploit and one is a Python exploit. And so searchsploit is one way to search for this stuff. Another way is to search right inside Metasploit, and another way is to search on a website called exploitdb.com. exploittacdb.com. All of these are just super valuable ways to search for an exploit. And you can look, and with exploit, what you can do is even download the code to see what it looks like. So it's pretty cool. Okay, then what we did was we went inside Metasploit here, and we launched those. Both of them are running, and we were able to background them. You remember that the background command backgrounds a session, and the sessions command shows me what sessions I have open. Now, there's a couple of new commands that I want to show you that you can make use of. First of all, using rhost, setting rhost all the time, especially if you're running against a standalone machine like the Metasploitable machine, and you're not going to do much more with it, you can do what's called setg, which stands for set global, and you can type in the name of the thing that you want to set, and then you just type in the address of your Metasploitable machine, and it will set it for you. And then every time you go to run an exploit, rhost is already set for you, and that's pretty cool. Another thing that you can do is you can type in save. So if I type in save here, it's going to save the current configuration, and you'll see here that it's saving it to home Cali, and there's an invisible folder called .msf4, and then the file is called config. Now, I do want to show you this. If you try to stop this machine right now, if I click File Close, and the button is set on Power Off the machine, it will not save that change. So the next time you come in, rhost isn't going to be automatically configured, nor is this going to be saved. So you would save the machine state, and what that will do is save all your changes for you, and it'll bring those up next time you want to run that. Okay, now let's talk about Metsploitable. We're going to do two things. We're going to launch Metsploitable, and then we're going to get into it and look around a little bit so you can see what it looks like. And what I will do, I'm going to show you some of the commands, and I'm going to show you how to output the commands, but I'm also going to put a link out there on this movie so that you can go and see all of the commands that are available inside Meterpreter. Also, you should be available that not every command in Meterpreter is available for Linux. There are lots of extra commands for Windows. So some commands that you're looking at are not going to be available in Linux, but they will be available in the Windows machine. So let's get started doing that. So what you want to do is you want to run an update, and so we're going to say sessions, and we're going to put in attack U this time. Now remember that if we put in attack I, it stands for ID. We have two of these things running here. So if I type in ID number 2 here, it'll launch that reverse shell, and I can type in the who am I command, and it tells me that I'm the root user, and I can type in the background command to re-put it back into sessions. Let's look at a new command now. So what we're going to do is we're going to run sessions tac U here, which stands for upgrade, and then we're going to type in one of those. It doesn't matter which, it's going to work for both of those. Like I can show you here, if I do sessions, I have session 1, which is just a reverse shell on port 4073. Session 2 is a Samba shell. It's using port 4444. Either one of these will work just fine. So if I type in sections, tac U, and then I pick a session. I'm going to go ahead and pick 2, for example. What it's going to do is it's going to upgrade this session to a Meterpreter session. Now, what is Meterpreter? Meterpreter is a series of commands that you can use that allow you to do a lot of extra stuff. Did I say a lot of extra stuff? You have way more power with Meterpreter than you have with just a native shell that you've entered into. Now, it is a payload, so what you have to do is you do have to accomplish a shell on a machine, and then once you've done that, you can launch Meterpreter and do some things on the machine. And you can do things like run PowerShell commands. You can shell out to the actual machine itself and run commands there. There's a whole list of commands, so I'm anxious to show those to you. So let's get started. So now you can see here that it's telling you that it started a session 3, and what it did was it used this session right here, which is coming from my Kali box, port 4444, connected to my Metasploitable box on port 39125. And now we have a third one here, and look at the change. So it's using port 4433, and it's using a different port there, which is connected to the Metasploitable box here. And now I can say sessions, and you can type in tac I and then 3. You don't have to. It's another one of those things where, you know, it's not as formal as that, so you can just tell it that you want to use sessions 3 here, but you do have to type in the word sessions plural. Okay, so we're going to enter into the Meterpreter session here. Now, do you notice anything different? Well, first of all, you notice that you have a Meterpreter prompt here. If you try to run the Kali Linux clear command, it's not going to work because Meterpreter now has its own set of commands that you need to use, and clear doesn't happen to be one of them. Well, how do you see some of these commands? Let's take a look. You type in help. You can also type in question mark. Either one of those commands is going to work, and it's going to show you all of the commands that Meterpreter knows about for this session. Now, there's a couple of things to remember. First of all, we've got a shell. We have upgraded our shell to a Meterpreter command set. Meterpreter is connected now to our shell, and we can run Meterpreter commands. And there are Meterpreter commands that will work in Linux, and then there are some outlying Meterpreter commands that will work in Windows as well. We're not going to see those Windows commands when we're in Linux, so let's type in help. Now I'm going to go clear to the top. This is a vast list of commands. There's a lot of them, and they're in sections. So you've got the core commands here. I was telling you that question mark will bring up the help menu. Background allows you to background the Meterpreter session that you have. There's an alias for background, so you can type in BG. You can't do that in Metasploit. You can do it in Meterpreter because there was an alias built for it. So instead of writing this big long word background, you can just type in BG and it'll background that session. And then there's a bunch of other commands as you can see here. I can exit the Meterpreted session by typing in exit. It doesn't exit the shell, it just exits the Meterpreter session. I can get help. I can get info about a post module. What is a post module? Well, this is where Metasploit starts to get really cool because now I've got a reverse shell. I've shelled into Metasploitable. I've launched a Meterpreter session, and now I might want to go look and see what kinds of post, meaning post-exploit, what kinds of things that I can drop on the client computer, the attack computer, and do some other things. So that's why they call it a post. And you'll remember that Metasploit has an entire folder or a directory full of post stuff that you can do as well. You can get the machine ID. That's amazingly cool. You can open up a thing called the pry debugger. Another word for quitting the Meterpreter session is quit. You could use exit or quit. You can read data from a channel. Now, the thing that is you need to keep in mind here, when I launch a shell and I background, it's going to create a session. When I launch Meterpreter, it's going to create a channel. So you can have multiple channels open and multiple shells open on a machine that you're attacking. We can run certain things. Very, very cool. There's the sessions command, so you can quickly switch to another sessions if you want to. And then some of this stuff has been deprecated. I don't know if you know what the word deprecated means, but it means we don't use it anymore. So use has been deprecated for the word load. And we'll get into some more videos where I'm going to talk about loading stuff into Meterpreter and using it. Now that was the core commands, and it's labeled right here. There's also a thing called standard API. You can ignore this term for now. The main thing to focus on here is that you have different sections. So we have some file system commands, and these are Linux commands. So it knows about cat and chmod, and we can get the checksum of a file. We can change directories. We can copy files. We can do a directory listing. We can use del, the delete command, which is normally a Windows command, but it works inside Meterpreter as well. We can download a file. This is very cool, and I'll show you how to do that later. You can edit a file. You can get the local working directory, the present working directory, all kinds of stuff. You can move a file. You can remove a file. You can remove a directory. I mean, you could be really, really dangerous on this thing. Here's some networking commands. So if you take a look at these, we've got ARP. And I've been told that way I should pronounce it as ARP, but I've called it ARP for so long that I probably won't call it ARP. I'll just call it the ARP cache, Address Resolution Protocol. You can run both ifconfig and ipconfig with Meterpreter. You can run the netstack command to get network information, network connectivity information. You can run the route command, which is it's like traceroute in Windows, only it's going to show you what's going on in the routing table. There are some systems commands here. So you can do execute. So you can execute a command on the system, the system that you are currently attacking. You can get its environment variables. Now let me explain what a PID is. A PID is a process ID. Machines have two things happening. They have what's called a service, and a service you can think of as a piece of code that does something very specific for you. For example, printing. Windows has a service called the print spooler, and the print spooler is responsible for intercepting print jobs that are destined to go to a printer. Well, you can stop and start the print spooler service, and it will work miracles if you've got a printer that's hung up. So that is a service, and in Linux they're called daemons. It's spelled D-A-E-M-O-N-S, but it's pronounced daemon. And then you also have what are called processes. Now, process is just a little thin thread of code that's running and accomplishing some purpose, and they get what's called a process ID, and it's called a PID. You can see them in Windows Task Manager. You can go to the Details tab and look at the PIDs for all of the different things that are running there. and Linux has them as well. You can kill a process, so you could kill a PID, which is pretty cool. You can get the local time of the target machine. So if you've hacked into a machine in, say, Shanghai, you can get the time on that machine. You can run a kind of a over-the-top grep command to search for stuff on the local machine and stuff like that. You can even get a shell within a shell. Now think about it. You're shelled into Metasploitable because you used a certain exploit to get in there. Then you launch Meterpreter, and now if you type in the shell command, what's going to happen is going to take you directly to the actual shell on the computer. This is really cool in Windows. It works really well. You can suspend a process. You can get the system information. Check it out here. You can get some webcam commands. This is really spooky. So if a user was running, say, a Linux computer, you could and they've got a webcam on it, you could start a chat with the user through a video chat. You could list their webcams. You could take a snapshot, look around wherever they're at, their workplace, whatever. You could play a video stream. Kind of spooky, right? You have some microphone commands. You can listen. You can list their microphones. You can start capturing on audio stream off of their mic, and you can stop capturing. You've got some audio output commands. You can play a waveform audio file using Meterpreter and the play command. And so that's very, very cool. Now, if you were to run this against a Windows machine, you would see some other commands that are out there. For example, in Windows, you can launch a keylogger, so you can actually get a log of the keys that the user is typing in, and you could definitely extract passwords and things like that. We're going to do a lot more with that. I want to take you down the road a little bit more with how you can leverage Meterpreter, but the point of this video is just to get you comfortable with what Meterpreter does. Now let's try a couple of commands. So for example, we can type in sysinfo, and what it will do is it'll return the name of the computer that's currently in use that you were shelled into. In this case, we're shelled into the Metasploitable box. We're on the local domain. It's running Ubuntu 8.04, and it's on an i686 processor. And of course, this is all in the virtualized world, so all of this is virtualized. That's neither here nor there. Let's see if we can look at another couple of commands. So let's type in the command shell. And now we are actually out on the shell of the computer. We're actually on the Metasploitable box, and we can type in a command like who am I? And it tells us that we are root, and we can exit out of this thing to get back to the Meterpreter command. Now I talked about the processes. We can list the running processes that are on the computer by typing in PS. This is a Meterpreter command, and I want to just show you a little bit about this because there's a ton of them. Take a look here. So what you've got is this is called the PID. They call it the PID, the process ID. You've got the name of whatever's happening here. You've got the path where it's at. And then you've got same things in left and right square brackets. And then sometimes you have a name of something that's going on, like port map or Getty or IMAPD and things like that. And you could kill any of these PIDs. Here's MySQL. This is the MySQL daemon right here. And it's got a PID of 4279. So you could kill that PID. Or what's really interesting about this is you can take over a PID. So you can tell Meterpreter, hey, I found a PID that has root access, and I want to take that over because I want to get in and do things as that process rather than as me poking around on the computer. And so what it's going to look like is the process ran the payload or the bad thing rather than you. So that is just an amazing feature. There's PostgreSQL. You can see that it's got a bunch of PIDs running. So that's a PID. Let me go down to the bottom here. You can also show what's inside the system's ARP cache by typing in ARP. There's not a lot going on there. It's not super interesting. You can run the if command, which is what you would run in Linux. So I'll click an insertion point here and type ifconfig, and it will give me the IP address of the Metasploitable host. And guess what? ipconfig also works. Even though that's a Windows command, it works. So both of those are going to work for you. That's amazing to me. And you get the MAC address and you get the IP address of the computer. I can change directories here. So I can cd into /temp. And I don't know if I communicated that to you, but that is actually a really good place to drop off things that you want to do bad stuff to a computer. You don't want to do that. Of course, the bad guys want to do that. That's why I'm teaching you this, so that you can understand how these bad guys are thinking. And boy, I'm telling you what, they know a lot about these systems. So it's up to you to really study and work hard to learn as much as they know about this. But I've made it a directory here called temp, and I can cd into temp like this. And I can do present working directory, and it will tell me that I'm in the temp folder. I can type in edit. I have been hacked. I'm in the temp folder now. So if I hit my up arrow, by the way, it remembers your previous command, so it obeys the Linux keyboard buffer, where it keeps track of all the different commands you've typed in over the session. I'm going to edit I have been hacked, and it brings up a Vi editor. I can go to insert mode and type in you have been hacked like this. Bang, bang. I can do an escape. I can do a colon, right quick bang, and boom, it's out there. Oh, I typed in an A. I can do a colon, right quick bang, and then I can do an ls and see if I can see that file out there. Okay, I'm a big dummy. I called it I have been hacked, but it didn't see the spaces and all that stuff. I should have put that in double quotes. It just named it I. And then if I cat out, cat, cap I, there it is. So that is Meterpreter. It's very cool. Now, if you wanted to exit Meterpreter, you just type in exit like this. If you wanted to background the Meterpreter session, what you would do is type in background and hit enter, and it will background session 3. You can type in the sessions command to show you all of the sessions that are available to you, and it's there available for you. And then if you type in save like this, and then when you get ready to exit your VM for the day, you hit close, and instead of power off the machine, save the machine, it will save all of these configurations for you so that we can work on the next movie. I've had a ton of fun showing you how this works. Hope to catch you on the next movie. Thanks for listening. Have a good day.